Intentional Walk, and it's published by Thomas Nelson, and he joins us now. Rob, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Who do you write for?
I run a website called stlsportspage.com, which covers all the professional sports teams here in St. Louis.
Now, you wrote a book on the Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals baseball team, and it's called Intentional Walk, an inside look at the faith that drives the St. Louis Cardinals. What motivated you to write this book on this angle?
Yeah, I've written a number of books about the Cardinals over the years, and this is kind of an interest of mine that's always, obviously being a Christian, that has interested me, and it just seemed like over the last few years the Cardinals had been drawn more and more into to signing players and trading for players who also, expressed, strong Christian beliefs. And the idea originally started a year ago when Mike Matheny was hired as the manager, obviously another strong Christian. And the original idea for the book was just to do a book on his first season as the manager and how coming into that situation, kind of unprecedented in baseball history, where he's taking over for a guy who's going to be in the Hall of Fame as a manager. The team had just won the World Series, and Pujols, as you mentioned, had just left. Three-time MVP, the team's icon player. So and Mike Matheny taking over had never managed before anywhere. So nobody really had ever faced that challenges that he would face in that first year. So that was the original idea, was just to do a book on his first season as manager and how his faith was tested by all the challenges and the decisions that he had to make as manager. And Mike was on board with that, and we were going to do it. And then as we got into spring training, into the start of the season, and just started talking, it just seemed like we were missing a bigger picture if we didn't also include the stories of all these guys that were, such strong Christians on the team. So Mike's still a part of it. He's got a couple chapters in the book, but it takes a bigger, broader look at the season. It is set against the backdrop of last season, but it still kind of tells the stories and the testimonies of all these guys on the team.
Adam Wainwright, the all-star pitcher, is featured. Matt Holliday, another all-star. You mentioned Mike Matheny, the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals. What's the proper way for a Christian in professional sports to behave? I mean, some people get annoyed by the fact that you take Tim Tebow, for example, just one example, and you hear some people say, the guy's never done anything I know of to be pushy with his faith in terms of, with his teammates. You never hear them complaining of that. He just lives out the walk, and that's what most of these guys do. They just live out there, as you say in your book, you call it intentional walk, and let their lives be an example. But it's still, some people are just annoyed by that, I guess, aren't they?
Well, I think Mike Matheny expressed that sentiment best, because he said, I'm not going to drive my faith, what I believe, down your throat. The first meeting he had with the players in spring training last year, but he said, how I believe, and what I believe, and if you ever want to talk about it and you ever want to question me about something, my door is always open and we'll talk about it. And that's how I guide my life, and that's what I'm going to do. But he's not going to just browbeat it to death. And I think that the majority of the players on the team kind of have the same attitude. I mean, a lot of them said they never pray before a game to win a game. They never pray for a home run or a no-hitter or something like that. They pray for good health, and they thank God for the opportunity to play baseball and to be able to go out there and do the best of their ability.
Now, is it okay for me as a St. Louis Cardinal fan to pray for them to hit a home run?
I hope so. I do.
I just wondered.
I think fans live by different rules than the players.
Okay, I just wondered how that worked. Your book is called Intentional Walk, an inside look at the faith that drives the St. Louis Cardinals. You don't have to be a Cardinals fan to enjoy this book, because it's really about the lives of a lot of these players and how they integrate their Christian faith into their profession, which is high pressure, isn't it, Rob? I mean, this is high stakes. I mean, people say, well, they get paid to play a game. Yeah, but if they aren't able to play the game, guess what? They don't get paid. Yep. And so there's a lot of pressure every year on these guys to perform, to win, to excel. And how does that factor in, the pressure?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is, and kind of one of the common bonds was kind of, it impressed me with all these guys that we talked to. I think there's 17 or 18 guys that we talked to, different levels of the organization, different roles in the organization. They're included in the book. And I guess one thing I want to say too is, just because you're not included in the book doesn't mean that these are only the Christian guys on the team. There are other guys too, but we wanted to get kind of a cross section of older players, younger players, pitchers, non-pitchers, star players, role players. I mean, so there's kind of a cross section of guys that are included in the book. But I think that the one common bond addressing your question is that they believe that having that foundation of faith just gives them the freedom to go out there and play without any worries or without any trepidation or anything else, because they know where they are in their life and they're confident with that. So I think that's one of the things that's interesting is that applies not just to professional sports and to professional athletes. I mean, I think that's important to everybody in every walk of life. If you have that faith and you have that foundation, it just gives you the ability to lead your life and without worrying. And I think that's, you have to do that as a professional athlete, but I think you have to do that in no matter if you're a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant or whatever you do.
Rob, how unique is the situation that you're writing about? That is, could a book like this be written about the Rangers or the Giants or the Braves or the Yankees, or is it an unusual situation that so many openly Christian players are on the Cardinals?
It's a combination of both, I think. I think, yes, every team has a baseball chapel. Every team has a Bible study session. I think that the depth of how far it goes in the Cardinal organization is more unique than some other teams. And I think it also varies from year to year. I mean, I think, the makeup of the clubhouse is always kind of a constant revolution. It's always constantly in flux. And I think it just happened that last year and this year you had this central core of really strong Christians on the team. That doesn't mean they're all going to be here next year. It doesn't mean that, the situation is not going to change and that some other team is going to have more guys, with ultimate beliefs. I think the one thing that is true about this team, which is a little different, is, and I think maybe part of the answer is that the leaders of this team, and yes, it did start with Pujols, but it's kind of gone on beyond that. The Matt Hollidays, the Adam Wainwrights, the Carlos Beltrans. I mean, the guys who are really the leaders of this team are also the strongest Christians. Lance Berkman a year ago. And so the younger guys coming up who may, kind of be on the fence a little bit about, I believe this, but how much do I show it? How much do I get involved with that? They have no hesitation to become and get involved because they know that these are the guys that they're looking up to be the leaders of this team. And if this is what they think, this is what they feel, then obviously it's okay to express that and to feel that too.
Lance Berkman's with the Rangers now, isn't he?
Yeah, but as I say, it was set against. There's three guys in the book who were Cardinals a year ago that are included in the book, but they obviously have changed teams over the year. Lance is one, Skip Schumacher's now with the Dodgers, and Kyle McClellan is also with Texas. So I still wanted to tell their stories because they were part of this team a year ago, even though they've gone on to move on.
One aspect I wanted to ask you about before we let you go, Rob, and by the way, your book, Intentional Walk, that's the title of it, Intentional Walk, an inside look at the faith that drives the St. Louis Cardinals, published by Thomas Nelson. That's available everywhere now?
Yes, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and hopefully bookstores every place, and also the Thomas Nelson's website as well.
You've been around professional sports now for a long time. These guys are on. Obviously, they've achieved something that a tiny percent of athletes ever get to. Somewhere along the way, everybody runs into a level of play that's better than they are. I want to ask you about that when we get back from the break, okay? Here's the music.
Sure.
What I want to ask you about is how do you maintain humility when you're idolized, when everybody wants your autograph? By 50,000 people are there watching you play and you sit there and go, man, I'm making millions of dollars. All these fans are here to see me play. I'm on top of the world. That can get to your head, seems like to me. So I want to ask you about that. How do these guys keep grounded? How do they stay humble? And then we'll let you go after that, Rob. But can you hang on for that?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll be back. Rob Raines is our guest. I'm Tim Wildman with Ray Pritchard, and we continue on with our conversation after this short timeout.